Hello, this is Jacob Ham. This is my Texas history project for History 4309 with Professor Jared Ingram. This is July 28th, 2019, and this is about the Alamo. The title of this presentation is The Alamo Legends of the Lost, and as you can see, this is my poster from a week ago, and behind the title is a picture of the Alamo for design. And as you go down here, we have a timeline of the events of the Alamo, basically the final 2 weeks or 12 days of the Alamo and its inhabitants, beginning in January 1836 when Jim Bowie arrives at the Alamo, and ending on March 6th when the Alamo is, of course, overtaken by Mexican forces. And we also have 3 biographies. We have one of Jim Bowie, Davy Crockett, and William Barrett Travis. And so these are basically some important leaders throughout the Battle of the Alamo, so that they need to be recognized. Jim Bowie was a soldier who took command of the Alamo and eventually was partially in command with William Travis. And William Travis gained full command eventually when Bowie became sick. And we have Davy Crockett, who was a volunteer from Tennessee. He was a congressman, and he eventually left politics to come down and live in Texas, where he eventually, of course, was killed in the Alamo. We also have a map of Texas during the Texas independence. And, of course, Texas was much bigger, but the Republic of Texas was smaller. As you can see, it's only in the right section. We have major battles with the star, and Texas victories are circled, and Mexican victories are circled with a dash through them. And so, of course, a primary Mexican victory would be the Battle of the Alamo. And we also have the primary sources over here that I use for my paper. Some Texas history sources and educated documents, and some sources from people who were there. For instance, Davy Crockett's letters to his children before he died, which are useful in writing the paper. Then we also have a map of the Alamo mission itself. This is my drawing of it, and as you can see, it's much larger than what we have today. Today we just have the chapel, basically, and a little bit of the convent yard and the hospital and area like that. But it used to be much bigger and much more spacious, but it was ultimately destroyed. And you can see the fortifications that the Texans added. They were prepared to defend it with their lives, which of course they did. And this is another view of what it looks like. Large walls and cannons spread throughout, and ramps and walls made a thicket, and wood created just to defend it. And we have a picture up here of the battle itself. As you can see, the Mexican army is demolishing the Texan army as they've broken through the wall and they're coming in, and combat is about to get hand to hand and aggressive. As you can see here, men are using their weapons as clubs, and very close combat, very close quarters. And this is a picture of what the Alamo Chapel probably looked like around that time. It didn't have that famous arch as it does now. And this is a picture of what the Alamo looks like now. Of course, if you've been to San Antonio, you know exactly what this looks like. A very iconic picture of Texas freedom and independence. And so that upper part was added on eventually. And then we also have my artistic interpretation of the Alamo, which is made of Legos, one of my favorite childhood toys. So my dad and I decided to use this as our artistic interpretation. I think it turned out nicely. And so what is the importance of the Alamo? Why do we need to remember it? Well, the Alamo was a Spanish mission and it was turned into a fortress by the Texans during the 1830s, during the Texas War of Independence from the Mexicans. And so it was one of the two major forts during the two entryways into northern Texas. And so it was imperative that it was fortified and defended by the Texans, or else the Mexicans could easily march up into northern Texas and conquer it. And although the men there sort of disobeyed orders from Sam Houston, who told them to destroy it and leave, they decided to stay and defend it with their lives, and it in turn inspired the Texan army to remember the Alamo and remember the other massacres that happened, and eventually conquer a large foe and win their independence and their freedom. So the Alamo is where about 200 men, volunteers and soldiers alike, died, and it is still remembered to this day. And it is an iconic image of Texas freedom and courage against all odds, and it should be remembered forevermore. So yes, it is very important for Texas history, and it is an iconic image of freedom. This has been Jacob Ham and his presentation of the Alamo, its importance, and all of my pieces of my project. And it's called The Alamo Legends of the Lost. Thank you.